Everhood, not to be mistaken for the Neverhood, is an adventure rhythm game made by foreign gnomes wherein you run around as a mute animated wooden doll interacting with other strange characters, many of which are willing to throw down in a dance battle at the slightest provocation. So there's nothing else for it but to dance your way through abstract worlds connected by sentient doors in search of the blue kit that nicked one of your doll arms and flogged it off the pig cannon. Put simply, Everhood is an experience. It starts off with a disclaimer warning that all whomst enter here must sacrifice thy morality and accept immortality and other such nonsense. Which comes off as a bit odd when all you're doing at the start is trying to get schmuck bucks to gain entry to some nightclub, while trying to avoid being murdered by its stuck-up VIPs and a killer ATM that's channeling its inner Flowey. This simply serves to sideline you for when it really starts getting heavy in its themes later on, although less said about the story is perhaps for the best since it's really something better experienced firsthand. Suffice to say though, things can get pretty weird. Everhood also pretty obviously takes inspiration from the likes of the Mother series, Deltarune, and other similar quirky adventure games. In any case, you'll spend most of the time exploring different worlds, or more accurately zones really, looking for people to interact with and excuses to get assaulted by sick beats. While it may be a rhythm game, Everhood is a little unordinary in the way of combat, having enemies attack the player in pace with the music rather than necessarily having you dodge along to the beat. Having Red Mage, that's you, sidestepping to avoid oncoming attacks and jumping over others when there's no free space to get around. You can also somersault sideways to jump and dodge at the same time, but I personally found it a little finicky to get the timing down just right. In any case, it serves as an invaluable tool to avoid getting smacked around when desperately trying to avoid these doors that serve as roadblocks to stop you jumping through. Later on, you gain the ability to fight back by collecting colored attacks, letting you shoot back after gathering two of the same color. Neat! Thankfully, when you inevitably mess up and get hit, you'll regenerate your health after a short delay of not getting hurt again. Given that enemies have set attack patterns, the difficulty settings solely affect how quickly you regain health and how much damage you take in the first place. Also, because enemies have predetermined attack patterns, it means that Everhood doesn't shy away from really giving it to you from the get-go. Starting from the third fight in, when it's still teaching you about the different attacks, it doesn't go easy. Even so, the system is so straightforward that with some practice to learn the timing of dodging certain attacks, it can feel really rewarding once you get good. Plus, having the option to immediately start a fight over from the start or from checkpoints on some of the longer encounters, it doesn't force you to trek back from your last save points, which is a huge time saver. Good feature, thanks. Besides the main dance system, there's also a couple of side minigames like go-karts, which is pretty basic but fun. Then there's also Racquetball made by Smega. Don't lie, you and I both misread that. As mentioned, the game gets stranger as things progress, with the encounters and characters themselves serving to match. Having memorable fights and bosses would be putting it simply. I still both love Green Mage for his manic glee about the options of playing a chaotic neutral generalist wizard, and hate him for introducing skull attacks. Oh, that's a lot of damage! Then there's the time I decided to get high as balls and started tripping with some talking magic mushrooms. Now, being a rhythm game, Everhood understandably has got some sick bops. We're talking some fat beatsies. Insofar that I can tell, they all range from pretty okay to downright awesome, which, given the sheer amount of music, is pretty impressive. Whether it's the combat, which matches the personality or situation you encounter enemies in, or just the atmospheric ambience while you explore the different loosely connected worlds. I honestly cannot recall a single track I downright disliked for the life of me. Granted, it's a mixture of both original tracks as well as a selection of free licensed music, but it's all put to use really well. Like Professor Orange, he's straight up a Lena Robotnik with his mean beat machine. Speaking of which, the overall look of the characters in the world itself are somewhat simple but creative and effective, using a lot of negative space with only key features that help differentiate between the different zones throughout each world. Likewise, having rather distinct designs that help tell more about each of the characters at a glance, in order to help compensate for the rather limited screen time they get. Which is a shame, since I would have enjoyed a chance to interact with them more than what was given, but they're still enjoyable for what brief time you get to spend together. Flan is best boy, he deserved better. Admittedly, I was a little leery at the start of Everhood when I first met Blue, being worried that he would be kind of annoying since you're forced to take him with you. Thankfully, after a while, he started to grow on me a little, so he wasn't all that bad. Plus, you can check your inventory to see a reminder of where you're meant to go, or speak with him to get hints on what to do next. The first half of Everhood is pretty linear, but once you reach the midpoint is when it really starts to branch out and offer different options. Along with having multiple endings, some of which are only available upon New Game Plus, it offers plenty incentive to go back and replay a few times to see what differs depending on what you choose to do. However, for this reason I do wish there was more than 3 save points available, since the game itself even actively reminds you to try saving in different slots to experiment and explore. Outside of the limited number of saves, the only really major problems I encountered came down to playing for too long. The first issue being memory leaks after extended playtime, since given that Everhood was made using Unity, it tends to commit die after running for about 3 or 4 hours. Similarly, playing for long times also caused some eye strain due to the graphics and the scrolling nature of the combat itself, making it feel like my eyes were scrolling after shutting off the game. Thankfully, it does come with some accessibility options, like a colorblind mode that designates specific symbols to each color, making it much easier to distinguish between attacks. It also just looks pretty good. I decided to keep it on after trying it. Otherwise, there's only minor things like the aforementioned difficulty getting the timing for the side somersault down right. I don't know what it is, but for some reason I just couldn't get it to work properly half the time. Which is odd, since I played through on both keyboard and controller on separate playthroughs without much issue otherwise. Predictably, the controller did feel a lot more natural, but the keyboard controls were still serviceable. I couldn't find a way to rebind the controls inside the menu though, which kind of sucks. Speaking of the menus, the options themselves are pretty scarce and only allow you to adjust the audio in blocks rather than by percentage, making things either just a bit too quiet or just a bit too loud. This led to me having to fiddle with my sound settings every time I wanted to boot up Everhood, but this is me pretty much nitpicking at this point. Overall, Everhood is a genuinely enjoyable experience that has quite a bit of replay value to go back and check out whatever you missed the first time around. While it may wear its inspirations on its sleeves, it's still very much its own thing, with memorable encounters and some very good tracks that stuck with me for days afterwards. For a $10 off Steam, it's definitely a worthwhile experience, and I'd recommend you check it out. It's a good game.